Welcome back to CoinGeek Live. We're continuing our conversation about how to reinvent the internet on what we call the metanet. To join me in that discussion are three great representatives of different applications on Bitcoin SV that are reinventing how consumers as well as businesses interact with each other on the internet. And I'll be introducing all of them, and then we'll be giving them an opportunity to present what's going on with their company and products. Two of them are joining me here live in the New York studio. First, I have Connor Murray, who is CEO and co-founder of a company called True Reviews. Welcome, Connor.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And next to me is the CEO and founder of a company called TonicPow, Luke Rowanes.
Thanks for having me.
And then appearing virtually, he is a co-founder of Twetch. Welcome, Billy Rose.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
Of course. All right. So each of your companies has an application that is helping to reinvent the internet using Bitcoin. So Connor, why don't you begin and explain to the audience what True Reviews is and how you use the BSV blockchain?
Yeah, thank you, Jimmy, and thank you, CoinGeek, for such an amazing conference here. So as Jimmy mentioned, I'm the co-founder and CEO of True Reviews. So True Reviews is an online review platform. We're seeking to solve two basic problems that exist in online reviews today. I bucket these two problems into the incentive problem and the verification problem. So as far as the incentive problem goes, for consumers, there's very little incentive to go home and leave reviews for businesses that you patronize. In fact, for the most part, the incentive comes down to if you were wronged by a business, usually that's what drives you to leave an online review. Or you go to these current existing businesses that exist on the internet and you earn fake internet points that really don't mean anything, and these companies profit off of all that time that you spend leaving valuable data to their company. And then we also have the verification problem. So ultimately, there's no way for you as a consumer to validate that the reviews that you're reading online are coming from real people, real consumers, people that had real experiences, right? We see this problem on a lot of existing platforms, but ultimately we want to use the Bitcoin blockchain to validate that reviews are linked to real experiences, real purchases, things like that. As a cornerstone of our platform also, it's not just about the user, it's about the business as well. So businesses themselves, they're finding out in the modern world here, reviews are more valuable than any advertising campaign that money can buy, right? So ultimately, we don't want to just build a platform for users, but we also want to allow businesses themselves to directly incentivize reviews by offering rewards and allowing people to come back and, even just leaving some basic feedback about their experience, whether it's a 5-star, I had a good time, generating more positive reviews for businesses that deserve those reviews. So ultimately, we have a few cornerstones of our business that we're going to talk about in this panel today, but generally what's really important to us is we want to provide a way for users to both own and monetize their data, because that's the existing problem with the current internet. When you go home and you leave an online review, if you're going to leave a very good review, it's going to take you hours of your time, really, probably to get it right. And ultimately, we want to have businesses control their digital footprint. Right now, businesses are relying on these really predatory companies. If your business makes the national news, sometimes a ton of people will flood your Yelp page, your TripAdvisor page, and leave a ton of negative reviews. We want to put the control of your digital footprint back into the business's hands. I just want to talk a little bit about our journey here. We started in 2019 with the Bitcoin Association Hackathon. It was a really awesome experience for us to dig in and try and figure out a problem to solve. And ultimately, while 2020 has been a weird year for everybody, for us, it's actually been pretty exciting. We incorporated earlier this year. Me and my brother founded our company. In May of 2020, we launched our product called Veritas, which I'll talk about in a second. And that's ultimately our problem to solve that verification problem I just mentioned. Also in May of 2020, Calvin Ayre invested in our company, which we're very grateful for, and it's provided us the resources to build our platform out and do a lot of really great, cool, unique things, which I can't talk about right now, but we're going to share very soon. And Veritas, as I mentioned, it's essentially an API server that we've created that allows us to tokenize proof of purchases or proof of experiences, and then link that later to a common user identity. And that way we can validate that online reviews are coming from people that actually purchased a product or visited a business, things like that. We've also created this as an extensible product. So businesses or essentially businesses can attach as much data as they want. So what we can start doing is linking. When we go and look at online reviews, we have context. We can start looking at what prompted the user to leave that review. And ultimately, this allows us to have users own a lot of this data, and they can choose how to monetize that at a later time. Veritas is available on the Coda Marketplace if you want to test it out, but also I encourage you, if you're someone interested in, if you're a business or anyone like that wants to use this product, definitely reach out to me and I'm happy to talk with you more about it.
Fantastic. Next, we have Luke Ronas, who's going to explain to our audience what is TonicPow.
Yeah, so TonicPow started as a hackathon project, as a lot of you know, from the Bitcoin Association's first hackathon. Since then, it's evolved quite a bit and taken a few different forms, but what we aim to do is essentially connect advertisers and promoters directly to one another and let them come to voluntary agreements that benefit both of them, instead of this model that we have now where large platforms sort of dictate what advertisements get shown and to who, and the way that they do this is usually pretty sketchy by kind of spying on you and knowing everything about you, and most people are kind of oblivious to that. So I want to spend just a minute here talking about some of the things that we've been working on over the last few months, and we will be launching kind of a new version of our platform coming here in November. So I want to just share some of the things that that will be highlights of the changes that we're making. So the first thing is you'll be able to sign in with a number of different providers, be them Bitcoin wallets or traditional OAuth login type providers like Twitter. So this seems like a normal feature that you'd find on most websites, and it doesn't seem too novel. But for us, this is the first step towards something really important. When you link one of these services with your identity with TonicPow, our plan is to have something that Craig was actually talking about a lot yesterday, attestations associated with the disclosure of that information, and you'll get a receipt that is recorded on chain and that you could then use later to prove that you disclose that information to us. This also gives us the opportunity to do something that we haven't done yet, which is have an application process to the campaign. So an advertiser comes on, they create a campaign. They might not want just anybody to be representing their product or service. They might want to have certain criteria, or they might want to make sure that that this is a person who would be a good brand ambassador. So this is a really important first step for us to getting towards that. Next big feature, but is also a very obvious thing, is that you'll be able to search for campaigns. This is something that you just can't do right now. We have loads of campaigns on tonicpow.com, and there's not a great way to sift through them and get to the what it is that you're looking to share. If you have a perfect context, I want to mention this, I want to mention Handcash to somebody right now, you'll be able to go to tonicpow.com, type in Handcash, get their campaign that's active, copy a short link, and then go share that on social media and earn Bitcoin for sharing that with your audience. The other interesting thing here is we also have a URL shortener, but it's very separate from our current product. We kind of have a few things that are not all in a cohesive package. So part of this update is basically bringing everything together. And this URL shortener is baked right into the same search bar. So if you typed a search term in here, you would get a list of search results and campaigns. If you typed in a URL, you would get your short link to then go share that wherever it is on social that you have an audience. The next big change is those of you who have been paying attention to TonicPow and what we've been doing all this time. Our first product was a display widget, a traditional, ad that would show on a website or something like that. Then we did a campaign network where people, where advertisers come on, they create campaigns and then people can share them. Those two products are very disconnected. That's going to start to change, and you'll be able to use the new site to generate widgets and just copy a little snippet of code to put on your website and display ads from the campaign network. The other thing up until this point that you would have to do to integrate with us more deeply to fire conversions, which are like somebody purchases a t-shirt, you want to give the person who referred them 10% of the purchase or something like that. That's what we call conversion goals. And in order to integrate to fire conversion goals, you would have had to contact us to get an API key. That's changing. You'll be able to create apps right from the dashboard in TonicPow, get yourself an API key, and start playing with the API. So this is a quick peek at what the dashboard kind of looks like. As you can see, there's kind of a lot of stuff there on the left, and I'll just go through some of the highlights here. We don't really have the greatest of reporting currently. That's obviously got to be a cornerstone of this service. And so we're working really hard to get much better detailed reporting, both for the advertiser and for the promoter, so they can see their earnings, what campaigns they came from, and all of this. As I mentioned, managing apps and API keys through this interface. This is where you'll manage your campaigns also. Kind of a new thing that we haven't had yet is similar to what I mentioned before. We're just trying to give more control to both parties. And that means allowing an advertiser to say, look, I've been working with this promoter. They haven't been, they're delivering me traffic that looks like it's either not legitimate, or for whatever reason, you'll actually be able to disassociate and say, I don't want to work with this person. And you'd be able to blacklist the promoter. The other thing I mentioned in the beginning, linking with wallets and third-party apps and having attestations. This opens up a lot of doors because, I touched on this briefly, but the fact that you could have certain criteria for your campaign, and you could say, in order to be eligible for a promoter, you basically have to have linked these certain things. We have to know these certain things about you. And that will enable us to finally get our rates that promoters can earn much higher. They should be able to earn a lot more money once we have these things in place, and that's where we're trying to get to. And the last thing to mention is that we're changing our short link domain. We have one that's basically all consonants and kind of doesn't give you a lot of information about where it's taking you. And the new one, tpow.app, is pretty clear that you're going to a TonicPow site, and that's all I have to share now. There's a whole bunch of other stuff we're working on. I had maybe 16 slides in this originally, and I trimmed it out because I know we got a lot to talk about, but that's the short version.
Right. Thank you, Luke. So from reinventing consumer reviews to reinventing digital advertising, we're now going to turn over to Billy Rose to talk about how Twetch is reinventing social media, communications, and I'm sure so much more. Right, Billy? Tell us all about it.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Billy Rose, and I'm the co-founder and chief creative officer at Twetch. Twetch is a really exciting application. It's a social network where users own their data and profit from their content natively. But the really exciting part is the business model itself. We believe we have found the solution to all the problems of the internet. We often hear talk about this social dilemma, the problems with social networks like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. But what are these problems, and why are they so hard to quantify? In order to answer this question, we need to get to the root of the problem. The problem is that the business model of these platforms is fundamentally broken. I'm talking about the free-to-use advertising model. When things are free, they're generally taken for granted. Psychologically, when we get something for free, our minds regard it as if it were something meaningless, something you can throw away and not think twice about. This concept has given rise to poor behavior. Instead of supporting good information, growing good ideas, and working together as a general unit, we tend to troll, spew hatred towards others, and judge everything. The internet today is extremely shallow and short-sighted. It's a lot of image worship, idolization, cheap laughs, and meaningless scrolling. It's extremely addictive and extremely harmful to our minds. And it just gets worse. The way these platforms are able to provide these massive services that cost billions of dollars to run for free is by stealing your data and using that data to manipulate and control you. The ad model has turned us into sheep that are predictable and easily manipulated. It has killed our individuality and can only lead to one place: total control for big tech, and by extension, total slavery for the users. But don't worry. Twetch has found the key to unlocking data freedom and solving the major problems of the internet. On Twetch, we have paid speech, and with paid speech comes great responsibility. The beauty of paid speech is that you have infinite potential for future profit. On Twetch, interactions like likes and comments and shares, they're all micropayments. Users can earn Bitcoin peer-to-peer for each interaction their post receives. This concept is very powerful, and we have found amazing results. By archiving and storing all your content on the blockchain, your words and interactions exist for a very long time. Someday, your great-great-grandchildren will read what you posted and learn more about their ancestors and their heritage. Users on Twetch are true to their word. The culture we have created is one that has meaning through honest business relationships and content that lasts lifetimes. Bitcoin enables this microtransaction economy to happen. We no longer need to sell your data in order to earn revenue. We simply need to adjust the business model to not rely on manipulating you. Twetch takes a small fee, which is often a penny or less, for everything that a user does on the platform. By doing this, we're able to support our business without having to steal your data. Your Twetch data is always archived on the Bitcoin blockchain, so it becomes lasting, it becomes portable. Users can move their data to another interface where they control the terms of service, simply by writing a script and parsing the blockchain. These are all the things that are possible now on Twetch. We're only 1 year in, and we haven't even scratched the surface. This is what Twetch looks like as it exists today. It looks a little blurry here, but you might say it looks pretty familiar. This is a feature, not a bug. As the designer, I needed to find a way to create a familiar experience for users in order to balance out the fundamental shift in infrastructure. You see your usual like button there, but underneath the hood, that's a 5 cents sent directly to the content creator. Twetch currently has around 20,000 users, so you can imagine what this looks like at scale. So that's Twetch. A user has an idea that they want to post to the blockchain, they pay 2 cents, which goes to miners and service providers. The user then posts that information where it's archived on the blockchain within a transaction, and when a user receives a like, a reply, or a branch, they get paid. Twetch is not just some alternative social network. Twetch is a fight for freedom. We want to give you the power to own everything that you create on the internet, to earn money from it, and to do whatever you want to do with it. All I know is that your creation should be yours, not Mark Zuckerberg's. Yeah, thank you. And that's it. So we just released Twetch Chat, which is fully encrypted. We just released hashtags and cash tags, which are all mined using 21E8. And we're about to release our desktop app, I think sometime within the next few hours when everybody wakes up. So make sure everybody checks that out. And if you want to contribute to our development, you should go to twetch.app/features and fund the features you want us to release next. Twetch is available now at twetch.com. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much, Billy. That was a nice presentation of a lot of the issues I want to actually frame for our discussion now, which is, the problems people see with the current internet. Billy's given his and Twetch's summary of why they believe the internet's business model is now broken with free services. I'm curious for both of you from your respective sectors, what do you think needs to be changed or improved in today's internet business models? Connor?
Well, I think Billy made a good point. A lot of these companies are really predatory, right? A lot of the companies that exist in Silicon Valley, they profit off of users' time, users' energy, the value that users create for the platform. They don't see that value come back to themselves, right? So that's a huge issue. Ultimately, though, I think what's really important in this new paradigm of the internet that we're building, you also need to give users choice, right? So users having choice isn't a bad thing. So for example, advertising isn't a bad thing necessarily. So I think while the current companies that take my time, my energy, and they profit off it, that is an issue. It's also important that we give users choice to allow them to own their data, but also, not everyone wants to pay for everything. Not everyone wants to, spend all of their time and energy
writing reviews.
Exactly. So, but with that said, Billy made a great point that ultimately there's a few people in Silicon Valley making a lot of money off of a lot of people's time and energy, and that's a big issue.
I think Billy was trying to say something. Billy, we'll cut back to you. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, if you don't pay for it, you just end up with the same thing that we have today. It's just not going to change. What we need to do is we need to change the culture of the internet, not just allow people to have some semblance of data ownership while also just stealing their data and using that to create better and more targeted advertising.
So on the advertising point, Luke, what do you think really most needs to be changed for digital advertising on the internet?
For me, it seems it's just like who's in charge. Right now, it's massive platforms who lock up network effect, and then they are choosing exactly what ads to show. And the same thing goes for when you put an ad widget on a website. You know, who's picking what's going to display on that ad?
Yeah.
And we've seen these ads all over, and they're horrible.
Yeah, it's usually an ad network, right?
Right. And I mean, it's how often you go to a website and you see the you know, get ripped in 5 minutes, like really scammy, kind of like too good to be true type of stuff that's just very clickbaity, very like. But these things, you know, are psychologically manipulating people into interacting with them. Now, with our model, it's very different. You know, you're shown, you know, an influencer promoter is shown a list of different campaigns that exist, and it's up to them to self-select. They're choosing because they know their own audience. They choose what it is that they're going to share in their own feed, and then they're also going to be rewarded for that. So it solves a lot of these same problems from a couple different angles.
Yeah, I think this is a common theme we're going to hear not just from this panel, other ones throughout this conference, which is retooling user consumer minds and behavior about how data and the internet should work. I want to ask about economics to all of you, which is, have you thought about what are the price points or value points that you think will work best for each of your various applications? How much, for example, should someone pay to post a review? How much should they receive back in other forms of value on your respective applications to make it worthwhile for a consumer? We'll start with Billy.
Well, we usually make our decisions based on good memes. So on Twitch, it's 2 cents to post your 2 cents. But the beauty of it is that you have, like I said, infinite potential for future profit. So if you don't get a 5 cent, so one like would actually be a profit for a user who posted their 2 cents. But if you don't get that like right away, you still have this beautiful benefit of the blockchain, which is that you can display it on as many platforms as you want, and you can always earn money into the future. So the economics of Twitch have actually worked out really well, and we are constantly improving that.
Connor, what do you think is will be necessary to incentivize people to pay to post a review and then hope that they get rewarded back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a hard question only because economics is something that you can't plan in the first place, right? So ultimately, what emerges as the best option is something that the market will have to decide anyway. And I think, you know, companies, you know, all of us are trying to figure out what is that best price point. But
Where are you starting?
You have to also think that, you know, for someone that lives in Africa, maybe that makes less than $2 a day, 10 cents is a lot. So for me, posting 10 cents to maybe potentially earn $1 or $2 is something that I'm willing to risk, right? But for someone that makes $2 a day, maybe 10 cents is too much. Ultimately, I think 2 cents is a pretty good, I like 2 cents for 2 cents, Billy. I think that's a pretty good number right now.
For us, yeah, it's a lot of the same sentiment there. I want the market to find the price. Right now, it's, you know, there's a couple different ways that people earn money. You know, clicks and conversions. Clicks are shared something on social media, people click it, I earn some money from that. We cap that currently at 8 cents, and the only reason that there's that cap in place is because we have more work to do to layer in identity and to give advertisers protection against fraud. And so as we develop that, we hope to lift those limits and to discover what this is really, you know, what this is really worth to people, because I think that number will be much higher and people will be able to earn much more money with Tonic Pow in the future. So I'm actually eager to find the answer to that question myself.
Yeah. Yes.
If I could mention one thing too, I think the economics also depends on the user's reputation, right? So across different platforms, some users might be willing to spend more because they know that they're going to earn more based on their following or their reputation on the platform too. So it's a really complicated question that I'm eager to see what the market decides on.
And on the other side of that, like for us with clicks and conversions, you know, I talked about clicks for a second, but with conversions, it's really based on, well, if I'm selling a t-shirt, it matters about how much profit do I have and how much leeway is there to offer a promoter for bringing me that sale. And so on that side, it's going to be percentage based, more than likely.
You're hoping to create a model, though, that will have advertisers happier because they're getting more direct return on their investment.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about these legacy players. Obviously, each of your companies challenges existing legacy players in the internet space. Do you think there's opportunity for companies such as yours or ones like that on BSV to actually partner with, work with any of the bigger legacy players in the internet space? We'll start with Billy.
You're talking about Google and Facebook and Twitter?
Or yes, and other companies.
Yeah, sure. I'm certainly interested in making more money for my company, but our goal is to flip the internet inside out. We don't have too much interest in working with them unless it'll benefit us in some way.
Okay. Connor, what about you?
Well, I think our goal should be to bring Bitcoin to as many people as possible, right? So a lot of these companies have a lot of users, and so what we're building is an interoperable platform for any company like TripAdvisor, Google, or Yelp to integrate with, because ultimately what we want to do is get Bitcoin in the hands of as many people as possible, as easily as possible, and leveraging existing user bases is important to get there, right? I think, ultimately, while there are a lot of companies that, Billy mentioned them earlier, that are extremely predatory right now, there are also companies that just don't have another option. The internet doesn't provide them another option. So I think providing both businesses and users more choice is a really good thing, and something that we're definitely interested in helping other businesses grow into the Bitcoin ecosystem with.
Billy, hold on one second. I'm going to let Luke answer, then I'll get back to Billy. Luke?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear from them. I definitely can, understand Billy's point of view here of like I'm not like calling them up and saying, hey, listen, guys, you really got to work with me type of thing, because they are largely responsible for the situation that we find ourselves in now. And usually the people who have a lot of control in a certain paradigm don't want to easily give that up. And that's what this would mean for them, is that they would have to relinquish a substantial amount of control to the parties who are being involved in this commerce.
Yeah. Billy, you had a further comment.
Yeah, look, these companies would certainly benefit from the business model that we have created at Twetch, and just in using Bitcoin in general. Twitter is constantly trying to figure out ways to decentralize and take away the responsibility of content curation from themselves, and they're working on that with, I think, a project called Blue something. So yes, Bitcoin would definitely benefit these companies, but it would have to be a fundamental shift for them. And they have hundreds of thousands of employees currently working on making advertising better, stealing more and more data. It would just require a complete overhaul for somebody like Facebook to integrate with Bitcoin.
Yeah. Or would require very forward-thinking executives battling within larger companies, which I've seen from my experience representing a lot of big companies in my legal days. There's usually, some forward thinkers that have to fight a lot of internal political battles, or perhaps one of the legacy players saying, that's interesting, I want to experiment with that, but through a separate business, for example. They may trial a separate business in parallel. So we have a number of questions from our online audience, which is not surprising given the topic we're talking about here and its interest to the BSV world. So let me ask some of these audience questions. So for Tonic Pow, if I as a user do not have Bitcoin, what do I need in order to get links and start using Tonic Pow as an affiliate?
All you really have to do is sign up. Right now, we do have a bit of a wait list to get activated, but actually, you can still sign up and share links and just not have instant payouts until we've basically activated your account. And this all has to do with what I mentioned before, of the process of layering in strong identity so that we can protect the advertisers from fraud. So if you are a real person with people who you'd like to share things with, sign up, and then you can probably the best way is like contact us, either on Twitter. We have a Drift widget right on our homepage, and we'll get you up and running.
Okay, Connor, what about your business? If I'm a user and I'm new to Bitcoin SV, I don't have any coins, how do I get started?
Yeah, so we're creating a way for users to come into the platform, and as I mentioned, we want to give users choice. So I don't think it's an issue to provide users a free posting model, but then show them that there can be an alternative that is better, right? But ultimately, what we need to do is capture the whole world that is used to this existing free internet model, whether we think it's broken or not. I think it's a really important way to bring them into a platform, allow them to post something, and then allow them to earn based on other economy generated that was from that content. So what we're trying to do is actually bring users in and allow them to post for free, or a few other ways that even this week, Luke and I have talked about this problem a lot. How do we best onboard people into this ecosystem, but also having these values that we're talking about, data ownership and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So maybe giving them a certain number of free trial posts to get them on board.
Exactly.
Let's go to Billy. Billy, how is Twetch approaching this? How to get brand new Bitcoin SV users onto your platform and using?
I just want to comment on what Connor just said, because I don't think that letting people post for free is going to bring them in and scale up your project and bring new people into Bitcoin, because it's the same thing that everybody's already doing. So where do you get that unique aspect of what you're doing if you're just doing the same thing? And then the other thing, I mean, I really think the way to get more people to get into Bitcoin is to make it easy for them to get Bitcoin. It's really hard for people to get Bitcoin right now. My friends, they have Venmo. They say, oh, if I have Venmo, how do I get Bitcoin? Well, you can't unless you know somebody who already has Bitcoin. And not only that, we also have the problem of the ancestor limit. I hit the speed limit almost every day on Twetch. I'm trying to make a lot of transactions. On Twitter, I can do 1,000 likes in a second. We need that.
If I could just mention real quick, sure. I think, Billy, the problem with existing platforms, though, they're free to post, but the companies are the ones profiting off of that, right? So we can still flip that on its head and allow people to come in to a platform, post for free, and then they're the ones that are monetizing the content.
I mean,
in any event, let's move on to another topic.
Making money is a bad thing. I think the companies need to make money in order to continue to innovate and produce something that consumers want and need and provide a service for them. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I do think that choice is a good thing, and I could see a world where you can earn your posts or your Twetch tokens or your Bitcoins via looking at ads, or you can get free services by looking at advertising. But every time we've tried to do anything for free on Twetch, it always comes back to hurt us. So, we'll see how that plays out. But I'm really excited actually to see how that plays out, specifically, Connor.
Yeah, and I think like everything in the Bitcoin SV world right now, everyone's experimenting with different approaches, and there's probably not necessarily one right answer for every situation, and I think we'll all see how it plays out. Lots of other questions. There's a popular Netflix documentary these days called The Social Dilemma. I haven't had a chance to watch myself because I've been busy getting ready for this conference, but it's really exploring this question of the dilemma of social media and what the impact it has on user data. Do you have, for anyone who's actually seen the documentary, do you have any thoughts about how that informs the strategies your companies might take?
Yeah, well, I think Billy mentioned it. I actually think he covered it pretty well. I think the free model where essentially we're beholden to what advertisers are willing to pay for us to do on the internet is a huge problem. And I think, Billy, you mentioned it pretty well in your presentation, that I think that's the root issue. Okay.
Yeah, the main theme of The Social Dilemma, the problem that they're trying to solve, is that these algorithms and these advertising models are getting so good at predicting human behavior that they're actually creating human behavior. They're causing you to take action, and they're able to turn you into a sheep that does whatever they expect and want you to do. And so this is, they make it seem really scary and frightening. But I think that they never really come up with a solid solution. I don't think that anyone knows what's going on, but we have actually solved this problem already. If you just make people pay for the service that they use, then the whole entire thing becomes different. And we don't even have to do advertising. We don't even have to take your data. So I thought The Social Dilemma was a little bit of a weird movie. It was like they wanted you to feel afraid watching it and feel weird about using the internet. And I think that the internet is a beautiful thing, and I think that we're about to come into a world of a flourishing internet of ideas and everything. I'm just very excited about the future. I'm very optimistic, and they make it seem like you shouldn't be.
I haven't seen it, but you know, from what I heard, kind of the same thing. It really does highlight some of the issues that we're talking about and what we know about. But then at the end, it kind of doesn't offer some of the solutions that we know work very well. Like, for example, having people pay for things.
So you hear that? Netflix documentary production or distribution teams will acquire a documentary, and then you can have Social Dilemma Part 2, the solutions from Bitcoin SV. Let's talk about, not to get into politics, but it is election season. And certainly one of the topics in politics in the US these days is the role of social media and misinformation, and what role service providers such as Twitter or Facebook should play in managing, correcting, disabling false information or misdirected information posted by users. So this question was directed to Twetch, but I actually want to ask it to all of you, which is, are there any fact-checking bots to remove content and dictate the narrative, or, deal with misinformation, false information? We'll start with Billy, and then I'll go to the other two panelists. Billy?
Well, misinformation is solved through proof of work. You can have content curation that has nothing to do with what I think or what the Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg thinks and what they like and don't like. I think misinformation is kind of currently a buzzword, a campaign to go against anything that goes against the status quo. And we're just not here at Twetch. We're just not here to control the status quo. And one thing that we do want to do is we want to create ways to curate content that has nothing to do with someone's personal political views or what certain ideas someone likes and what certain ideas someone in power dislikes. So the problem with misinformation is that the content curation itself is centralized, and Bitcoin actually enables us to take it away from the centralized hands altogether and allow the people who think that they have the most important content, and then the people who give that content attention, to allow that content to rise up on its own without having to be involved in any way. It's all about what I think, how valuable my content is, and then how valuable the market takes my content and where they go with it. That's what matters.
Connor.
Yeah, I agree, especially with that last part. I think, especially for me, I know Luke, we had this whole conversation, I'm sure Billy, the same thing. I got into Bitcoin because I really like markets. Markets are really interesting, and right now we don't have a way of having a market of information, right? And ultimately, I used to use Reddit all the time. Reddit was a really interesting platform when it first came out, and then it became a platform where the company itself started controlling the information that users were allowed to bring to the top of the feed, right? And I think ultimately what Bitcoin allows us to do is allow person-to-person interaction, person-to-person trade, and I think the misinformation problem is ultimately a market problem. I mean, information that's really good will rise to the top in a market. Information that is bad and misleading will fall to the bottom.
So there's a huge point that I want to make here with this particular topic, and that is one of the big issues is a lot of people, like, okay, Twitter, Facebook, these guys, they own that platform. They have every right to do whatever they're doing on their own product, and we understand that. The problem that I see is, again, you don't own your own data, and so you can't sign out of Facebook and sign into a competitor that doesn't do the things that you disagree with. So you can't like vote with your attention and your engagement in the way that you ought to be able to. And with Bitcoin, we have a giant shared database essentially. Mm-hmm. So if we do a couple clever things like just publishing public protocols that are the same that everybody uses, to where if you post on this site, it's visible on this site. And the site's tax, you know, they can earn, like with Twitch, they take a percentage of your engagements on that platform. And if you don't like the way that Twitch is doing something, or they start censoring or something, which, you know, very unlikely to start happening, I think, knowing these guys, they kind of have the right mindset for this. But you would be able to go somewhere else and participate still, and have all your same followers and have all your same interactions.
Right. Because different applications can access your data from the same global distributed ledger.
Right.
I was going to say, there's nothing really even wrong with, and what's weird is that this is actually controversial on both sides of the political aisle. There's nothing wrong with Twitter not wanting to show certain pieces of content, right? But the problem right now exists that there's no other choice for users to go to. But if Twitter doesn't want something on their platform, that's their right as a business, right? So it's a weird situation where just the user does not have that choice that we need.
That awkward phase.
Billy, I think you wanted to comment?
Yeah, I totally agree, Connor. And I think that the main problem is that they have these algorithms, these biased algorithms that they show you, they confirm your biases, they only show you things that they think that you want to see, and they're just trying to control and filter the flow of information. And what really the solution to this problem is have no control as the publisher of the filtering of this information, other than if this is a post that I don't want, that is against our terms of service, we reserve the right to remove that post. But it's the curation of it and the confirmation bias that they like to control. And then they also like to try to sway people in the political or ideological direction of their investors. These are things that I think are very immoral and wrong to do as a publisher. I think you should just let the market decide what content is the most valuable. And then when you do that, you end up with a valuable information market, right?
Here's an interesting question from a user. Going back to those legacy companies like Google, if I'm a user and I've got my data and content on the Bitcoin SV blockchain using your applications, could people be allowed to sell that own data or content to the same companies like Google?
Well, I think that's a problem we need to tackle. We can't just put data, you know, in op return and then it's plain text and anyone can scrape the blockchain and sell that data, right? And I think that's, again, you know, I had some great conversations with Luke about this. I think it's really important that users have that, put it in their possession, maybe encrypt it to a key that only they control, right? And they can grant access to that data if they want. They can choose whether to sell that data to advertisers, but it's really important that we build tools and infrastructure where users aren't just putting their data into another database that other people can scrape and pull.
But would you support business models that allow users to sell their data to the legacy players once it's on chain?
Well, I mean, that would be up to the user, right? Like, I mean, if the user has the data and they wanted to do that, I think they obviously should have the choice. I think there's a lot of exploring to do there. I think we have to tread carefully because people, you know, we don't want people giving. Well, I mean, I guess at the same time, it's like they're already getting all of it right now, right? They know everything literally about you. So what would really be the, you know, the downside? I mean, it's sad to say because we want to be careful and like not show too much, but it's like, geez, they already have it.
Right. Billy, any comment on that?
Yeah. Why would the Google pay for your data if they get everybody's data everywhere for free already? So first we have to change behavior, and then we can go to little old Google, you know, and say, hey, if you want my email address, you have to pay me 50 cents. But for now, we just need we need to get to the point where we can start to have some kind of leverage. And in order to do that, internet users just need to change their behavior. And we as application developers, we need to provide the services that can actually rival these companies. Because if we don't, guess what? Convenience wins every single time. Every single time.
Right. Totally.
All right, we have to wrap the session up, so I want to give each of you an opportunity just to tell our online audience what you're looking forward to most next for your company or product. We'll start with Connor.
Yeah, we're really trying to tackle these problems that this is a really fundamental, we're at the very beginning of this new paradigm shift, I think, and it's really important that we get the infrastructure and the tooling right, where providing users ultimate control and ultimate power over this data is really important. So in the coming months, we're going to have a new name, a new look, all that kind of stuff. We're really excited about what's coming for us, but ultimately, I do also want to pitch to the rest of the world. There's a lot of really great tools to get started and build your own alternative to these existing models. And I think we shouldn't wait around for the existing companies to wake up to this. I think it's a really unique opportunity to dive in and get started and interoperate with other companies and build really interesting tools for users to monetize their content.
Luke, what are you looking forward to most with your company?
I think I'm going to be really excited when I can share with everybody that there are people who have had struggles with demonetization, and they've spent years building an audience. People like Stefan Molyneux and things like this who have been basically, they're all of this work. They spend years building these audiences, and then they're basically banned from these platforms. I'm really looking forward to these people discovering Tonic Pow, what we can deliver for them, and also that people are able to sustain themselves and their families and earn literally a living by connecting products and services that they like to their audience, who they know better than any advertising platform.
Yeah. And Billy, as you answer the question, one last audience question came in, which is people want to know when you're going to have a mobile app. So why don't you tell us what you're excited about most with Twetch and when a mobile app might be coming?
Well, if you want a Twitch mobile app, you can build it yourself. We'll probably build the best one. I hope we can, and we are in the process of doing it. I can assure you of that. But you can build one too using the Twitch SDK. We just released hashtags. We just released encrypted chat using Bitcoin, and so we mentioned it before, but we're all moving towards this more encrypted direction as well. Anything that you publish to the Bitcoin blockchain, you should be able to decide whether or not that is encrypted and private or public and monetizable, essentially. And really what I'm looking forward to is creating more and more ways to allow users to make money. I want to see every Twitch user become a millionaire, right? That's what Josh says online. And I want to see kids in Africa and wherever else where they make $10 a week. I want to see them make $100 a week on Twitch and on Bitcoin files and on all these other applications that we're building. And so we want to give users all the choices that they can possibly have to decide to do whatever they want with their data, whatever they want with their content. And we don't just want this for our users, we want this for ourselves too, right? So this is like a revolution. And I think that more people need to realize that, is that this whole Bitcoin thing, this is a fight for your life. This is a fight for your digital citizenship. This is a fight to have ownership over the things that you create on the internet. Everything that you create on the internet is currently controlled and owned by Google and Facebook and all of these companies. You got to take it back, change your behavior, start to use these applications that work today, like Twitch, and we're going to keep building it until our applications are better than theirs, and they will be, and it will be soon.
All right, thank you all. What a great panel. I want to thank Billy, Connor, and Luke for joining us. And this is a great example of something we discussed in the Bitcoin SV world. Unlike so many others in digital currency camps of other coins, our fans and users are not about just buying and hodling coins. We're creating an economy, ecosystem with applications like you've heard about today, where users earn and use Bitcoin and really change the paradigm, not of just the internet, but our entire digital economy. So thank you for your contributions to this, and I look forward to seeing all the great advancements of your various projects.